Hey there, this is Kevin Rowland with InkSoft. Thank you for coming to this next video going over the Facebook Pixel. We're going to be covering some basic information on, what the Pixel is, where you can access it on Facebook, and how to go ahead and implement it into the InkSoft store. So right here at the beginning, I'd like to give a little bit of a brief overview of what it is. A Facebook Pixel is code. It is a tool that is used through Facebook to track all sorts of things through your other website. So we'll show you how to get that code and how to put it on over onto your InkSoft store. But it collects a lot of information like data for tracking conversions. It provides a way to do some remarketing efforts and build target audiences, traffic of people coming and going from your page, what they clicked on when they were there. I mean, really, it is expansive for the kind of information and data that you can gather. That really falls into I guess, what you want. It falls to you to decide what you're going to be using it for. We'll just make sure you know how to get there. All right, so we are going to be starting things off in the Facebook business account in the back end. You can start off on the business settings area. It doesn't really matter as long as you can get to the page like this. Up in the top left, you're going to have your menu. Click on that, and you're going to be going to the option that says Events Manager. So this is where all sorts of data is going to be tracked, and we're going to be obviously finding out a little bit more about it later. But right now, what you'd want to do first and foremost is make sure that you are logged into your right account. I know it sounds kind of silly, but like I was talking about on the previous video, there can be multiple accounts associated with this one business account here, and one of which could not be the business account. Just to save yourself some frustration, make sure you are on your business account. Once you're here, you're going to see up at the top we have the data sources and we have the Facebook Pixel. On the right hand side, you're going to hit this Get Started button, and it's going to ask you for some basic information. It's going to need a name for the Pixel. That's just going to be able to designate it so that you can easily find it later. And then, of course, you want to put in the website URL for what you're going to be using it for. It says optional, but I really would recommend it. It really just kind of leans into that whole organization thing. And then on the bottom right here, hit the continue button. All right, and that's pretty simple enough. Once you have that done, you're going to be presented with these three options. The one you're going to want to use is the manually add pixel code to website option. Go ahead and click on that and it will display the code. Cool thing is all you have to do is just click somewhere in that box and it says it will copy it to your clipboard, and you'll have to then go ahead and take that on over to the InkSoft page, and I would say use a different tab for that. Grab the code, open a new tab, open up your InkSoft page, and go to the developer settings. I'll show you where in just a moment, but don't leave this page. We'll have to come back here and we'll have to test that code. So here I am over on the InkSoft side of things on my test store. To navigate to where we need to go, we're going to go to Store Admin at the top, the settings icon here on the left-hand side, and then down below we have developer settings. Now, you're not going to have any code in here. This is my test account, so I already have a Facebook Pixel code in there. I already have my Google Tag Manager. What you're going to want to do is turn it on with the Activate scripts. That should be the first thing you do in here. And then anywhere in here, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to take this out just for consistency's sake. And I guess I can take the rest of this out as well. Go ahead and just paste it right in there. You'll go ahead and see the beginning of it and the end. All you have to do now is hit the Save and Publish button there at the top right. With the code successfully embedded onto your InkSoft page, come back to that other tab on the Facebook marketing side of things, go down to this URL bar and paste in the URL for that store. When you hit this Send Test Traffic button, it will activate it. So go ahead and refresh for a moment. And if everything goes according to plan, it will load your page in another tab. It does this to go ahead and test to make sure that when the page gets loaded, that information is being tracked and transferred on over to Facebook. If we click back over onto the Facebook tab we were just on, you will now see that this is set to active. It is now transferring that data successfully. So now that we know that it is active, it's communicating and tracking information properly, we can start setting up some of the events that we're looking to capture information on. And events are essentially just going to be actions that your customers are taking, things that are happening that you want to know about. So if you reload your data sources page on the Facebook side of things, you can click into your account for your Pixel. This will bring you to this page, which will display data as it becomes available. At the beginning, you're really not going to have much because we haven't really configured it. So at the top right, you're going to see a setup button, a drop down, and there's going to be an option here for set up new events. In here, it's going to ask you to use Facebook's event setup tool. It says it's recommended, and I couldn't recommend it more. It's a wonderful tool. If you click on that, it's going to say, okay, what page do you want to do this for? This is going to be for that same page that you were on, but for the main page. So you'll go to the storefront on your store, grab that link and paste it, and then click on the open website button. It's going to load that page into another tab for you, and it's going to have a display in the middle kind of introducing you to it. Now, of course, you can go ahead and look this over and see the content that they have to offer, and then hit get started if you want to follow through with that. I really don't need to use that right now. What I'm going to be using is this little tab up here in the top left. This is the tool that we're going to be using. All right, so now that we have this tool, we can start getting to work and setting up some of these events. So the two options that you have available are going to be track new button and track a URL. The first one here, track new button, when you click on it, it will show you all the possible buttons that a customer can click on your page. So let's say you wanted to track who is creating products through your designer. You would then come over and click on the create button, and you will have to set up an event that is associated to that. So what you want to do is just kind of think logically about what that means if people are hitting on the create button. You can say that it's initiating a checkout because it's, starting that process. You can say that it's a lead or that it's a purchase. I mean, the categorization of it really comes down to what that means to you if somebody is hitting create. Obviously, if there's a product there and they select it and they bring it into the checkout, that is going to be initiate checkout or add to cart. It's kind of subjective in that nature. You just want to make sure you're keeping track of that in your head and you understand what that means so that when you are going back to Facebook and reading this data, when you see all of the information for purchases and initiate checkout, you make that connection for, oh, that's because it was associated to the create button. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that it is the purchase. And then you can say a couple different values that you can use. You can say use value from initiate checkout, choose value on the page, or don't include value. So this is kind of based off of, because it's a purchase, the value associated. It's again a little bit different because it's not really getting into the nitty-gritty of purchasing right now. It's just kind of a generic term I'm using for it. So this is where it can get a little hairy like this, but think logically, think for what you are trying to achieve out of this, what information you're trying to gather, and just make sure you have it set appropriately. You can see now that I have the add to cart already set up on the page for people hitting that one, and I just went ahead and added in the purchase one too. You would want to do one of these for each button on each page that you want to track. Who is clicking on these buttons? Where are they going? So now moving on, I am in the checkout and I have an item in here. So there's a couple things I'd like to bring to your attention. It will actually give you recommendations on different events that you can go ahead and track. You can see the ones that we are tracking, like the purchase one, and you have your editing and delete options here, but it'll give you all these other ones that it suggests with that verbiage of add to cart. You can hit review and you can actually bring that in if that is what you would want to use. You can be able to see with each of these that they lead to a different place. Now, the other thing I'd like to go ahead and show you about this page is, I might be wanting to track who gets to the checkout, period. And that's a little bit different than a button because you can get to the checkout many different ways. So what you would want to do instead of tracking a button is tracking a URL. So you can click on that, and truth be told, it's a little tough with places like the cart because there could be a whole bunch of different URLs that could populate for different people that are visiting at different times using different products. So what you'll see here at the beginning is the full URL, and you're going to see a URL equals 2. It's dangerous to have it set up like that because that means it will only ever track it if people get this exact URL. And if you're going to be doing this for different pages, things can vary quite a bit with URLs. So what I would recommend instead is to use this option for URL contains. So what you would really be looking for is, instead of this first part, well, you would want to keep the /cart. You take that out and you take out the end part. Keep it simple, slash cart. Any URL that contains slash cart, it will trigger and fire and capture that information so that you know how many people have made it to the cart. And once you do that, like before, you will select an event that you can say add to cart, that you would associate it with, and then hit the confirm button. So that side of things is really up to you. You are the one who is going to determine what information is valuable, what information you want to track and capture over into Facebook. And as you are creating those buttons, those URLs, those events, they will be displaying here. And you'll be able to track that data with just the tool in of itself. So I'll leave you with that. Go ahead and set this up, put it onto your InkSoft page, set up some of your events, and then all you need to have happen then is time to pass. When people are engaging with your page, you'll be able to see the results. And like I said, that's really all there is to it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this installment, and make sure you keep your eyes peeled for more content coming down the pipeline, because we're going to be having a lot more coming your way. Thank you very much.